Okay, so then so in earlier classes what we had looked at the whole of the process of fertilization. Now I'll go back to the slide where all the points are mentioned. So in the process of fertilization, several steps are included. Insemination, that is the position of the sperm in the female genital tract, then the movement of sperm upward towards the fallopian tube, arrival of the ovum on the 14th day, and when in contact with the sperm, then it gets completely mature. But this ovum means secondary oocyte. Capacitation of the sperm, we have seen there are several decapacitation factors which are present around the head and the acrosome portion of the sperm, which needs to get kind of disintegrated so that the nucleus and the acrosome part can break open and do the further actions that is required for the fusion of gametes. In fusion of gametes, again, there were several steps, including acrosomal reaction. So the acrosome portion of the sperm will release different hydrolytic enzyme, including hyaluronidase, and will dissolve the corona radiata and so on. Then the sperm entry, that is the actual entry of the sperm nucleus inside the ooplasm. Then the cortical reaction, that is the cortex portion of this oocyte will react in terms of they will have certain chemical bond breaking reactions, and then it will cause the cortical reaction. Activation of the egg. So when the sperm is in contact with the secondary oocyte, it will completely finish the meiosis 2 and create the final complete female gamete, which is going to fuse in the next stage, that is amphimixis or karyogamy, that's the nuclear fusion. So this is the whole process of fertilization. Now after fertilization, this part I will just quickly go over. So males, they can produce two types of gametes, that is 22 plus X or 22 plus Y, most importantly in equal proportion, because one cell or one primordial germ cell will be going to split into uh, four of these sperm gametes, right? Because it's a meiotic division, four daughter cells, so that there will be four such gametes. Two of them will have X and two of them will have Y. In case of female, all of them they will have four gametes, they will have 22 plus X. So that way the meiotic division at the end will produce these gamete. Again, you might wonder that we have spoke of polar bodies and only one ova and sperm and like that. So I am counting everything as a gamete, including those polar bodies. Yeah. Otherwise, you will have only one single gamete that way from the secondary oocyte. So, so 22 plus X in case of female and 22 plus X or Y in case of male, depending on which gametes fuse. If it is 22 plus X and 22 plus X of male, that will form 44 plus XX, that is a female child. And if Y is fusing, it will form 44 plus X1, that will be a male child. So that is just the sex determination process. And I'm sure you have studied this earlier also. So just to quickly go over it, we have seen this part as well now. Now the most important stage is the embryo development. Again, embryo development is divided into 5 different stages. Now you might get overwhelmed with, oh, there are so many stages and so on. But if you logically go by like how the logical flow of the process would go, it would be easier to remember. So embryogenesis is the development of the embryo from the fertilized egg and its subsequent development into the young organism. That is what is called as embryogenesis, right? So that is from zygote to the complete development of the embryo until a young organism is formed. That whole process is embryogenesis, or in other words, it is called as embryo development. It has different stages. cleavage, blastocyst formation. Again, there will be few more additional term. That is blastocyst is another term that will be formed. Implantation, gastrulation. Gastrula is another like stage which comes in the embryonic development, which we'll see as gastrulation, and the organogenesis, that is the organ formation process. Now, going to the first step of the embryonic development. Now we know that we have the zygote, which is the fused sperm and the ova together, what we call as zygote. So cleavage is the repeated mitotic division. It's simply mitotic division in the zygote, which transforms a single fertilized egg. Now, fertilized egg ultimately means your zygote into a hollow, spherical, and multicellular blastula. That particular process is known as cleavage. Now, blastula is a group of cells, which we will see further, but just group of these mitotically divided zygote cells, and they will form a mass, and that's what we call blastula. So from the zygote to blastula, that particular repeated mitotic division is called as cleavage. Cleavage, by simple English translation also you can understand, it means breaking, right? So this one zygote cells will be broken in the sense not literally broken, but it will divide into several of such similar zygote cells, and it will form a blastula. The blastula word is coming from this blastos, which means sprout. Yeah. Now the cleavage involves a series of mitotic division, creating genetically identical daughter cells. All those cells which are formed in the blastula stage by cleavage of the zygote, they are called as blastomeres, and they are all genetically identical. Obviously, mitosis division, so they have to be genetically identical to their parents. Surrounding the inner fluid filled cavity called blastocele. So, yeah, where is it? I don't see it here. Okay, this is the larger picture at the end. Actually, this is the blastocyst, but before that, there is okay. This diagram may not be appropriate here to explain. Where is it? Here it is. Yeah, blastocele is the inner cavity of this mass of cell. Now, this is a little later level than the blastula stage, but what it means is this is actually a spherical ball cut into half, and what you are seeing is the middle portion from the half side. So at the inner core, that is the empty cavity, or the, sorry, not empty cavity, a fluid filled cavity, which is known as blastocele, and there will be these blastomeres, or this zygote which divides during the cleavage by mitotic division. They form identical daughter cells. This is what these are. So that is the blastula, and the inner core is the blastocele. Yeah. So where is it? Back. Yeah. So that is the cleavage part. Now interphase in cleavage divisions is short. Now we know that when the mitosis happens, there is a phase of interphase, that is G1S and G2 phase, and then the prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. So this interphase, which is G1S, that is first growth phase, synthesis phase, and the G2 phase, second growth phase. This is relatively short and does not involve much growth. The reason being, the major emphasis is on the nuclear division and not on the cytoplasmic division. So during the cleavage part, that is when this mass of cell is forming by the mitotic division, that needs to have a very fast dividing cells, and to make it faster, the interphase is relatively shorter compared to how the normal cell would mitotically divide. Compared to them, interphase in the cleavage part of the embryo development is relatively short. cleavage increases the cell number, but it does not result in the growth. And the ultimate result is it will increase the number of cell, but it does not result in the growth. Now, growth here does not mean growth in terms of size. Obviously, when you create one cell, two cell, three cell, or sorry, 1, 2, 4, 8, and so on, the size will increase a bit, right? But it does not mean growth in terms of towards the embryonic growth. It is just one of the stage required during the cleavage step of the embryo development. So the resultant blastomeres, that is the zygote, like the mitotically divided zygote cells, that is blastomeres, they become progressively smaller, and this is called as compaction. Like I said, it does not drastically increase in terms of size, like how we would imagine there is one cell, and when they divide into two cells, the two cells will have just a little smaller size than the parent cell. When they become four, they should be ideally bigger than the original parent cell, that is one cell. But that does not happen here. That's why this compaction of the blastomere is one of the important stage. So it's literally like squeezing all the cells in a small shape of after the cleavage as a division. So that is what is called as compaction. And these blastomeres, they become progressively smaller as the zygote is dividing through this mitotic division during the cleavage. Faster DNA synthesis happens to facilitate the duplication of the chromosome. During the interphase, that synthesis phase, the second phase of the interphase after growth one phase, is the faster DNA synthesis phase, where all the genetic material gets replicated, and that also is kind of speeded or fastened, so that the rapidly forming new blastomeres, they are formed quickly and they do not take long time. So that is why the S phase or the DNA synthesis during that S phase happens super fast. Increase, now the reasons we are not going, why does it happen super fast? Obviously, the cell machineries, they are coded by those cells within the zygote, and there are certain genes which express first and the certain genes they express later, and so on. So that way there will be genes which will express first, will cause this DNA synthesis to become a little rapid than normal process. Increase in nuclear and cytoplasmic nuclear to cytoplasmic ratio because of the DNA synthesis occurs very rapidly during cleavage. Now imagine the DNA is within the nucleus, so obviously the nuclear size will be bigger and the cytoplasmic size will be little relatively constant. So if this is increasing, ratio will also increase. So that is the statement, increase in nuclear to cytoplasmic ratio because the DNA synthesis occurs very rapidly during the cleavage. The overall area occupied by the nucleus in all the cells will be higher compared to the cytoplasmic area. Now, specifically with respect to the cleavage in humans, so this was the general process, right? How it happens, even in humans, how it should happen, and it does happen. Now, specifically in case of human zygote, after about 24 hours of fertilization, that means the sperm and ova has fused, the ova has completely matured, the nucleus has merged, and that is the stage 0, that is 0 hour. After that 24 hour, the zygote will start dividing into blastomere. So 24 hour there is as such no activity rather than just maintaining the cell's nutrition, that is the zygote will maintain its own nutrition and will prepare for the further mitotic division, that is forming the blastomeres, while it will still be in the upper portion of the oviduct, that is it is still in the fallopian tube structure. This is the first cleavage division, and that's what will mark the first cleavage division, which is quite obvious. The next cleavage takes place within 40 hours. So first will take after 24 hours, second will take, that means from one cell to two cell, like one cell will remain for 24 hours, after 24 hours they will become two cell, These two cells after 40 hours after the fertilization will become into 4 cell and so on. And the third division will occur on the third, like after 3 days of the fertilization. So that is almost 72 hours. So you can remember like 24 hours, 40 hours and 72 hours. Now you might wonder why there are so many, so much of gap. It is specifically because it will take certain time for whole of the uterus structure to prepare for this, what we say, prepare for the implantation process. And also because this zygote is relatively, zygote formation and the embryonic development is relatively critical processes in terms of checkpoints or in terms of regulation. They are very tightly regulated, so all those checkpoints take certain time, and that's why it is little delayed. uh, so the blastomere begins to form. That means after this 3 day, then it will again divide after certain time and again divide and keep dividing until this mass of cell is formed. And that's what is the blastomere cell. So blastomeres begins to form tight junctions. Tight junctions are nothing but between the two individual cells, because of the proteins present on the surface of the cell membrane. They are attached together very tightly. The proteins are attached, so ultimately the cell wall are attached to each other, and ultimately cells are attached to each other with through this tight junction, and that is why they are named as tight junctions. There are different types of junctions otherwise, but tight junction specifically refers to cell attaching to each other, actually very tightly. So the blastomeres, they will begin to form tight junctions with one another, leading to deformation of the round shape. Now, because of the tight junction formation and the nucleus or the cells are dividing, but the space, they are not moving or growing in the space, because they are kind of forming tight junction. So tight junction will kind of hold all the cells at within a very small place, and that's what is leading to the deformation of the round shape and the formation of the mulberry shaped mass. I am sure everyone knows mulberry. So it's like small cells clumped together, or you can even say like something like grapes. But grapes are little loose, not little, quite loose. Mulberry is those individual cell like things or round things. They are very compactly arranged. So the formation of mulberry shaped mass, which is called as morula. So zygote undergoes different cell divisions, which forms blastomeres, and the mass of blastomeres is called as morula. Yeah, these are very scientific terminology, and this change in the shape of the embryo is called as compaction. Because of the tight junctions within the blastomere cells, they undergo a compaction process. Embryo now becomes a solid mass of cells called morula. During this period, the embryo slowly moves down the oviduct towards the uterus. Now, as and when morula is formed, it will slowly start moving down towards the uterus from the fallopian tube structure. So, until and unless morula is, or until the stages of morula formation, everything happens in the oviduct or the fallopian tube itself. Now we'll just quickly look at this morula, and then I'll take any questions if you have. So morula is a solid ball of 16 to 32 blastomeres. So that means one cell has formed two cell has formed four, then 8, 8 to 16, and 16 to 32. So maximum 4 to 5 mitotic cell division will give rise to the morula stage, and that may last up to like the 3 to 4 days. Usually end of the 3 days should morula should be formed. That is the this stage what we are talking of, about 3 days after fertilization. By then the third fourth division will also happen by the end of the third day. So this solid wall of 16 to 32 blastomeres still is surrounded by the zona pellucida. Now zona pellucida is from the Graafian follicle structure, and the secondary oocyte which has turned into final ovum which has fused with the sperm. All of this is still surrounded by the zona pellucida and is about same size as zygote. Like this blastomere mass or the morula, it's as the same size as zygote, almost same. It's not exactly same. It is relatively like a little bigger than the zygote cell. But yeah, like if you have to compare, they you can call it almost similar sizes. It consists of a group of large centrally located inner cell mass. Now you can see here, this is the zona pellucida. Now diagram is smaller, but otherwise this Graafian follicle, zona pellucida, that is the outermost the outer layer, it is present here, and with the inner cell mass surrounded by a layer of smaller clear cells that forms trophoblast or trophoectoderm. Now if you look in the diagram, this broken part that you see outside is your zona pellucida breaking. Then the inner cell mass, this is actually your morula part, which are individually they are called blastomeres. Then blastocele is the empty cavity within this layers, and the trophoblast, the outermost lining which is round of the cells, or they are also called as trophoectoderm. Ectoderm is nothing but the outermost layer, and tropho is coming from the actually the oh, I forgot the meaning of tropho. Tropho referred to something. Okay, I can't recollect. uh, yeah, so that is the trophoectoderm, and morula reaches uterus by the end of the 4 days. So that is after the morula has formed, that is morula stage. This will come down into the uterus to form this blastocyst stage. So this is the how the division of morula would happen. Okay, now would you have any questions here in the cleavage part until the morula formation? Okay, so then we can move forward. So now the inner mass of cell is formed. Now that mass of cell will has entered the uterus, of course, along with that zona pellucida layer, and then zona pellucida will disintegrate later. So whole of the follicle structure or the Graafian follicle structure, including the corona radiata, has gone because of the hyaluronidase. Zona pellucida is still intact. It will come down along with the fused zygote and then forming the blastomeres, forming morula mass, and that morula is coming down to uterus. So when morula enters the uterus, the glands of uterine wall, remember these are endometrial walls, they will secrete the glycogen rich fluid in the uterine cavity, and that is called as uterine milk. Now milk does not literally mean like it is like a milk how we drink or so, but it is just because it is present it is rich in the glycogen like component. It simulates the uterine milk type of fluid. It enters the morula. So this fluid will enter the morula and is collected between the trophoblast. So within these cells of trophoblast, the uterine milk will enter inside this part that is shown empty here. And the inner cell mass, so between the trophoblast and inner cell mass, that is the that cavity which is empty, causing the formation of blastocyst cavity and blastocele. It has to be or, so that is blastocyst cavity or blastocele. So that means this cavity or blastocele, what is known as, that particular part is formed due to the entry of the uterine milk. Simply imagine, like if you are allowing the entry of uterine milk inside this sphere, which is containing the morula solid mass, it will kind of press this morula mass towards one side and it will create this cavity. So that is what is blastocele. Uh, with the appearance of this cavity or blastocele, morula will change into a hollow blastocyst by the 5th day after fertilization. It, because it creates that cavity, it becomes hollow, and it like it happens on the after the 5th day of the fertilization. Now, at the end of 5th day, blastocele will enlarge, will push the inner mass to one side. It forms a knob. Knob as in again a mass in the blastocele, which is called as embryonal knob, and this gives rise to the embryo. So, what usually happens is, go back. So these cells, they will form they will form actually this knob, and that is what is known as embryonal knob. And now again, it's just a different terminology uh, for the morula, but the stages are different. Otherwise, the cell mass would be constant, that is starting from zygote until the blastula stage, the cell mass would remain constant. It just the terminologies would differ. Like a single cell is called zygote. If that is dividing, it is called blastomere. The mass of blastomere is called as morula. And when that morula enters into the blastocyst formation stage, that will be called as embryonal nap. And that is what like at the end will give rise to the final embryo. Final embryo in this sense will allow the growth of the fetus. The trophoectoderm does not take part in the formation of the embryo. It's only the inner cell mass which takes part in the formation of embryo, and not the outermost layer, that is the trophoectoderm. It divides into two layers which develop into extra embryonic fetal membranes called chorion and amnion. We will see these two membranes later when we are done with the embryonic development. But remember, so this inner mass will form the embryo. This outermost layer will form the coverings which are protecting the embryo. So this trophoectoderm or trophoblast layer is actually forming this extra embryonic. Extra embryonic means outside the embryo, or like which is growing into the fetal stages. So that will form extra embryonic fetal membranes, namely chorion and amnion. Now, chorion, you might have heard, like if you are an eggetarian person, those who eat eggs, the outermost shell of the egg is called as chorion. Similarly, in this case also, there are certain not like so hard shells which are present in the human embryo in terms of chorion, but there is a layer which is called as chorion, and next to that there will be amnion, which is protecting within the uterus the embryo or the growing embryo. Blastocyst increases considerably, digest a hole in zona pellucida. So blastocyst, because it's increasing in size. Now imagine outside there is zona pellucida and this is increasing. So because of the growth of these trophoblast or the whole of the blastocyst, the zona pellucida layer will be kind of broken, like it is shown here. It is breaking, and it's also to some extent with respect to the enzymatic actions. So that is why it is said it digests a hole in the zona pellucida and will squeeze out so that the naked trophoblast can establish a contact with the uterine wall. So once this zona pellucida layer is broken, this blastocyst is naked. That means it is not covered by anything, and then this trophoectoderm can establish a contact with the inner walls of the uterus. Okay. Any question here again? Are you people following? Because there are so many terminologies here. Pratham, any question?
No, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? Manskit, are you following? Miss Manskit. Okay, I guess she's not there. Fine. So that is the blastocyst formation. Now I'll again go back here. So we had seen cleavage. We had seen blastocyst formation, which is still a mass of cell with a cavity. So, and then the next stage is implantation. By the name itself, we should know what this implantation would mean. So it is the attachment of the blastocyst, again that naked blastocyst that is without zona pellucida, to the endometrium of the uterine wall. So now, though the embryo reaches uterus by the end of the 4th day after fertilization, it remains free in the uterine cavity for about next 2 days. So 5th day is when this blastocyst is formed. Like at the end, this embryonal mass and all of this is formed. And 6th day also it stays like this. And after the 6th day, on the 7th day or after the 7th day, the blastocyst sinks into the pit that is formed in the endometrium. So endometrium is kind of welcoming the this blastocyst to go and fit into the endometrial wall. So though it was free until the like until the 6th day, it will obtain the nutrients from the uterine milk, which was secreted in the earlier case. So here we had seen, where is it? The uterine milk formation happens. Uh, I guess I don't remember. Where did we see it? I can't find it on this slide. But yeah, like the uterine milk was already, yeah, here it is. So this uterine milk is formed during this blastocyst formation after the morula stage, which is going to provide the nutrition to that freely moving or not freely moving as such, the free blastocyst which has been formed. And after the 7th day, then this blastocyst will go and sit into the endometrial pit or endometrial groove, and it will get completely buried inside this endometrium wall. Now, during the menstrual cycle, the endometrium has already grown in certain thickness, and during the pregnancy, the corpus luteum is still intact in the first few days of the pregnancy, that is, let's say up to 7th day. So endometrium has thickened even more, almost up to 4 to 5 millimeter. Otherwise in menstruation it is 2 to 3 millimeter in thickness. So once it is grown more than how it grows in menses, then this will form a pit in the endometrium. This blastocyst will go and sit and will get completely immersed in that endometrium structure. Here, the cells of the trophoectoderm will secrete the lytic enzyme that help the blastocyst to penetrate the uterine wall. Now, it is not just directly entering. Obviously, the outermost layer, that is the trophoectoderm, will secrete some lytic enzyme which will break down the uterine wall or the endometrial wall, and the blastocyst can enter inside those walls. The finger-like trophoblastic villi or chorionic villi, they are called as, of the trophoectoderm. So on the outermost wall of this blastocyst, there will be villi-like structure. Villi is nothing but that cilia-like structure, which are outgrowth or projections of the cell membranes. So those trophoblastic villi, or they are also called as chorionic villi, of the trophoectoderm, they will interdigitate to establish an intimate contact between blastocyst and endometrium. So what happens is, this blastocyst on the outermost side will have this trophoblastic villi, which are finger-like projection. And endometrium, being an epithelial structure, it also has this finger-like projection. So both of these finger-like projection, they will kind of interdigitate. Interdigitate means like how you clasp your hand, like fix the fingers in between. That's how those villi-like structures, they will get stuck with each other, and it will establish an intimate contact between blastocyst and endometrium. And this association of embryo with the uterine wall is called as implantation stage. Again, any question here? Anyone? Okay, now all of this happens under the influence of certain chemicals. So hormone progesterone helps in the implantation by inducing the uterine wall. Now again, corpus luteum has formed after the ovule was released. Progesterone was secreted, and that progesterone is maintained throughout the pregnancy, at least in the earlier phases, and it will induce the uterine wall to secrete these two hormones, integrin and osteopontin, especially for the adhesion. Osteopontin is required for the cell-cell adhesion. Cell-cell adhesion means sticking of the cell with each other. That is where the osteopontin is required. And integrin, this hormone, is not the hormone. It's actually the kind of protein structure. Integrin proteins, they will also be secreted, so that they can hang on to the cell membranes of the other cells. So both of these together, integrin as well as osteopontin, will help the blastocyst in the implantation into the uterine wall. At the end of blastocyst, the end of blastocyst with the embryonal knob is oriented towards the endometrium, and then what this means is, the embryonal knob is oriented towards the endometrium. So that means, like, I'll go back to this diagram. Like if this is the cell mass or this is the embryonal knob, this side will attach to the endometrial wall and not the any other side of that particular sphere. It's the side on which the embryonal knob is present, that side will attach to the endometrial wall. And this implantation is the actual confirmation of the pregnancy. Until and unless, until then, we like usually do not call a woman being pregnant until and unless the implantation has happened. And after implantation, you can actually see it in sonography. Otherwise, it's also difficult to see it in the sonography, where that fertilized zygote or mass of cell has gone, because there is this uterine milk, there is the endometrial wall thickness, and so many other things. So that makes it difficult to visualize. But as and when the implantation has happened, so that becomes a fixed structure, and then it is easier to visualize. So after the implantation, so the moment this implantation happens, the cells of the trophoblast will secrete a hormone. Trophoblast is still there with the embryonal knob, and it will secrete the hormone called as human chorionic gonadotropin, short formed as HCG. And this prevents the corpus luteum from disappearing. So the moment HCG is secreted continuously, it will also maintain the corpus luteum structure throughout its like the pregnancy period. Now the corpus luteum continues to produce the hormone progesterone because it is kept intact by this HCG, which keeps the endometrium of the uterine wall thick and vascular and prevents the menstruation. So until and unless there is lot of progesterone in the blood, so this will keep the endometrium uterine wall thick and vascular and prevent it from undergoing any menstruation. Can be if this menstruation happens, that means it's the abortion of this implanted embryo. Otherwise, it can keep growing through the different pregnancy stages. Again, any question here in terms of different hormones taking part? Okay, so I will just cover this small part. I will not go into gastrulation. I will just cover this part, formation of the embryonic disc. Now, what we have as of now is the endometrial wall, which is holding the blastocyst, and that blastocyst has the outer layer of the cell called trophoblast or trophoectoderm, and embryonal knob, which is located close to the endometrial wall. Now, the inner cell mass contains stem cells, which gives rise to all tissues and organs of the embryo. Now, this embryonal knob is also or has the nature like stem cells, which can give rise to the all different types of tissues or organs of the embryo. They are not differentiated yet. Differentiation happens, that means they can only give rise to certain type of cells, but not all them. So these are undifferentiated cells, so that's why they can give rise to all different types of tissue or organs of the embryo. Now, after 8th day, so after 7th day, there was let's say between 7th and 8th day, there was this earlier stage of the implantation. Then after 8th day of the fertilization, the cells of the inner mass, that is the embryonal knob, gets organized into two layers. So like those number of cells, let's say there were 32 of them, or even 64 of them, they will organize themselves into two layers within that trophoblast round or trophoblast sphere. And these two layers, they are called as epiblast, which will be the outermost, that is closer to the trophoblast, and the hypoblast, which is the inner one, and they together form an embryonic disc. Now, disc is nothing but a kind of curve shape of the cells. That is what is called as embryonic disc, which consists of epiblast and hypoblast. Now, hypoblast is the primitive endoderm, that is the innermost earlier version of the endoderm, and is formed by a layer of large columnar cells. This is just the structural feature. So endoderm is like primitive endoderm is nothing but the hypoblast, which is the inner part of this embryonic disc, and epiblast, which is the outermost part of this embryonic disc, is the presumptive ectoderm. That means it is the ectoderm, which is the part of the next germ layers, and is formed of two layers of cuboidal cell. Hypoblast was of columnar cells, epiblast is of cuboidal cells, and a small cavity appears between these two layers of the epiblast, which develops into amniotic cavity. Now, just to show you, this is your blastocyst. Yeah, it will develop into two different layers. Now, imagine this is a sphere and it is cut into half, and same is the case here. Now, this is not a sphere but kind of roundish shape, which is again cut into half, which goes to the blastula cyst. So in between these, you see this inner mass of the cell, that is blastocyst. They will also differentiate over the time, and these are the three layers that we are yet to see actually. So these are the three layers which will be formed from the hypoblast and epiblast. Hypoblast will actually form these two layers, endoderm and mesoderm, that is innermost and the middle one, and the ectoderm will be formed by this epiderm of the cell, embryonal knob. Okay, let me stop here. We can take any questions if you have. And tomorrow we'll continue with the gastrulation part. Yeah.